it is what it is, and we get another chance to do something about it now, which is the most exciting thing. And we take confidence from our last quarter, and I think we're always desperate to put a full four-quarter game together. Whether that comes this week or the next, but we're just going to keep building on what we've been doing so far, which at the moment isn't much, to be honest.
This is a SwansCast Extra, the #1 Sydney Swans fans weekend preview podcast. With me tonight is SwansCast regular Stephen Park. In this week's episode, we will preview the Swans' second round clash against the Adealide Crows at the SCG on Friday night. We discuss selections, what we're looking forward to, matchups and key points, and give the weekend forecast ahead. Well, Stephen, it's a pretty big match on Friday night. Are you looking forward to it?
I am looking forward to this match extremely. I want to see the Swans come out fit and firing this week. Sadly, I don't think it's going to be the case, so Justin.
Well, I would much prefer a repeat of the 2016 semi-final than the 2008 round. I think it was round 4 or 5 match that we played against them. We came into that match last year. We were kind of hit and miss, but they were without Sloan. I think they were without the Crouch brothers, and they had Walker and Betts under an injury cloud as well. So they had literally no midfield to speak of, yet they dominated us.
That's correct, and I wonder if we're not the opposite this time round. We're carrying a lot of injuries, I believe, and a lot of unfit players, and we may come out and actually turn it around. Did you read Dane Rampe's article about the midfield over the last couple of days?
Yeah, it's a bit of a rallying cry. He was pretty upset about the fact that not much help was getting there. They were trying to do it all themselves, and look, it was a case of, we talked about it on the weekend, and we talked about in our latest podcast, that the midfield, it really was just too much too late, and they didn't work hard enough. And even Longmire came out and said, you can't win a game off 40 minutes of football. And Parker said you can't play for half an hour and expect a victory either. So, yeah, I wasn't surprised by Rampe's comments at all.
No, me either. And they're starting to get the reputation as the slow Swans because our midfield is very, very slow. I actually think that needs to change very soon.
Yeah, they unfortunately are a little bit slow. Did you happen to see the Throwback Thursday video that I put up on Facebook earlier today?
I did see it, but I didn't actually get a chance to have much look into it. What was it about?
It was the Swans' 2016 semi-final demolition of Adelaide. And it's a bit funny when you look at it, you're like, okay, the Swans are a bit slow. Yes, they don't have great foot speed. But they looked so fast in that match against Adelaide, who have traditionally been a lot faster around the ball than the Swans. And they were just so much more clean with the ball. Their disposals were crisp. They hit targets. They thought their way through traffic. And you don't have to be foot fast to be a fast football team. If your thinking is fast and you're accurate with your disposals and you got good efficiency, you can look lightning quick and have just a team full of plotters. So it's a bit of a misnomer, I think, the foot speed. But I think this year we're kind of at risk of being exposed, like you said.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it comes back down to what you just said then. It's about your disposal efficiency. And I just don't think our disposal efficiency is where it needs to be at the moment, either by hand or by foot. And that's been the beauty of our team over the last 10, 15 years. Our hands have been perfect when it's been in and under. I'm not seeing that at the moment.
Well, I think that's a kind of a symptom of the salary cap pressure that we've had, but also the fact that, looking back in 2016, Tom Mitchell was an elite player back then, and it's a shame we couldn't have kept him, because I think if we had kept him, we probably wouldn't be even having this discussion. But we're unfortunately in this position where we are having this discussion, and the 2 years he was at Hawthorn, he was, amazing, really.
Yep.
You look at our midfield now, and it's full of youngsters. We're talking about Heaney, who's played just over 50 games. Mills, who's played just over 50 games, I think. Zach Jones, who's played about 60 or 70 games. George Sherwood, who hasn't even hit 100 yet. And they're in the midfield with the likes of, Kieran Jack's on the way out, but you've got Luke Parker, you've got Josh Kennedy in there.
Who are both on the way out probably as well.
Well, Luke Parker's really the only one in that midfield who actually looks genuinely fit at the moment. Yeah, Josh Kennedy's arguably on his way out. Then you've got other players like Oliver Florin, who started in the midfield. Ben Ronks had a run in the midfield. Tom Papley's had a run in the midfield. And these are all players who started in the centre circle. So there's no more fit Kieran Jack. There's no more Hanbury. There's no more Tom Mitchell.
Yep. You've got a Josh Kennedy running around on one leg.
Exactly. Like, you take those 4 players from their peak and you take it out of the team as it was from like 2013 to 2017. We still made a run in 2017 and those players were fairly big contributors. But you take those players out, and I think this is what we've got now, is we've kind of got this really young, really youthful, exciting, talented team, but they just don't have that experience and that skill there yet.
That's right. And the composure is the big one.
Yeah.
They don't have the composure to look after and contribute like needed.
Yes. No, I completely agree with that. And you can see that with some of the players who've come in. Jordan Dawson, who's had a reasonably long, apprenticeship in the NEFL. Then you look at Colin Rawdon, who's actually a pretty good player who has had to do the long yards and he's had to go about it the hard way. But I still remember his debut last year against North Melbourne and he was a good player. So I think he is a big in for this one.
Yeah, I agree. The one that surprises me, and I know we're jumping ahead a bit or we're leading into it, but I'm surprised Jackson Thurlow didn't come in.
Yes. So top of the agenda, obviously, the teams. We do this after the teams are announced, and they were announced at 6:25 tonight. Heath Grundy's out, tagged as injured, although there's no news on what his injury is, so he might have just had a knock at training. And Jordan Dawson obviously has been omitted, but Colin Rawdon and Ben Ronk come in. So it's an interesting one where Jackson Thurlow is concerned. I think he should be playing. It's just, who does he come in for?
I think he should be playing as well, and I would have actually gone with Lewis Melican out, to be honest. But in saying that, you've also got a very big forward line in Taylor Walker and Josh Jenkins.
Yeah.
The Heath Grundy one makes me wonder, though, because he sat on the bench for about 18 to 20 minutes in the last quarter, played about 6 minutes in the last game. He didn't look injured when he was out there. He played forward, he played in the ruck. He just looked at all at sea, and it was like he wasn't there because they had Lewis Melican playing as the full back, which is Grundy's position, but Melican didn't handle it very well at all.
No, I don't think Melican's really ready for that kind of football yet. In any case, I'm not sure he's actually going to grow into that kind of footballer. We've seen it time and time again when he's played as a fullback or even a centre-half back on his own, and he's just been slaughtered, I guess is about the best way to describe it. I remember, I think it was maybe round 10 last year. Yeah, I think it was round 10 last year when we played Hawthorn at the SCG. Or it could have been, 2017 maybe. Yeah, 2017 rather. And Melican was playing on rough ed. And he was still pretty new then. I mean, to be honest, he's only played like 9 games since that game anyway, because he had a whole year off. But rough ed gave him a football lesson you'll never forget.
He's probably your second or third best defender. He's not your main defender. And I just look at it and I go, Dane Rampe, great player, but he's not your big brute of a defender.
No.
Adealide, great player, but not your big brute of a defender. So that leaves Lewis Melican as your big brute, and he's not up to the challenge, I don't believe, at this stage.
Well, as one of our other SwansCast members, Heather Quinlan, said, she described him as having a really good ability to read the play and very long reach. He does actually have very long arms, and he can get into spoil the ball. But he's slower than a wet week. I mean, he's like sloth-like pace, which is pretty bad when you're playing against mobile forwards like Texas Walker, Jeremy Cameron. So I'm looking at this going, okay, if he's going to play on Taylor Walker, goals are going to get kicked on him. If he's playing against Josh Jenkins, the only way he has a chance is if Josh Jenkins stays in the goal square, which if it's one-on-one and he's isolated, goals are going to get kicked on him.
Yeah. And if Josh Jenkins leads up for the ball, goals are going to get kicked on him.
So it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. You kind of got to look at it. You go, well, who else they got? And the answer is no one. Toby Pink, maybe, but I mean, he's not really playing as a defender much. They can't really roll Sam Reid back because he's not a good one-on-one body player anyway. Yeah,
which is funny, isn't it? We had a backman go down and then we picked up another forward.
Which was utterly bizarre because it leaves us in this position that if either Melican or Grundy are out injured, we're kind of screwed. And in this case, Grundy's out. We're left with Melican. In all rights, Melican probably shouldn't even be playing anyway. But it's this really, I guess, difficult situation the club are in where they're going to, they have to pick someone to play. And it's going to have to be Melican.
Yeah, that's right.
let's talk about the two teams. The history between the sides is that Sydney actually have a pretty good head-to-head record against Adelaide for the last 6 years. So they've won 6 of 9 matches since 2012, including the only 2 finals that they've played each other. That was the qualifying final in 2012 when they weren't fancied to win that game. And of course, the semi-final in 2016 when they came off a shocking game against GWS Giants and just creamed Adelaide in the first quarter.
The concern for me is our head-to-head at the SCG is 2-2.
Yeah.
But my real issue is the fact that we struggle at home, or did last year, and I'm hoping that's not the case this time around.
Yeah, look, Fox Footy have made a pretty big deal about the fact that the Swans only won 4 of 12 games at the SCG last season, including the finals, and they only averaged 74 points for. To be honest, that's pretty poor. I mean, that was Carlton-like level of poor. So they really need to step up and improve and really show that they mean business, because a couple of years ago, no one could win at the SCG. They'd be lucky to lose 1 or 2 games a year at the SCG, and they were belting opponents by 30, 40 points every game. You go back to 2016, right. They were just SCG, no worries, we'll just bank 40-point win and we'll move on sort of game. But now it's a bit of a stressful sort of game to watch an SCG one now.
Yeah, and I think that comes down to composure again, and the fact that our midfield are not as strong. And if you have midfield dominance at the SCG, you win because It's such a small ground.
And you look at, when you touch on midfield dominance, you also got to look at the fact that it helped cover up deficiencies with our defence as well, because they worked equally hard both ways. So you go back to our premiership year, 2012, Ron O'Keefe, Luke Parker was only just coming on, Kieran Park, Jarek McVeigh, Josh Kennedy, right? So 4 of those 5 were mainstays in the midfield, and you still had some really good players like Jude Bolton and a couple other ones. They worked up and back tirelessly. At the moment, you can't say the same for the midfield. And, each week the younger players are often in the best because the more senior players are getting tagged out of the game. And, that's just how it's going to be. But you kind of lament the fact that the senior players aren't there enough to lift up the younger players and allow them to really flourish, because they can do some of the stuff they really want to do.
The pressure's put on the young players too much, and that's the concern. When Parker's way below his best, Kennedy's way below his best, McVeigh now plays in the back line, and then you're looking at the young guns, when you're probably your next most experienced player in the midfield is Ryan Clark, who's just joined the team.
Yeah, and so you've got Josh Kennedy, who's on, I think, about 200 games. Luke Parker, who's around about the same, pretty close to 200 games. And then you got Jack Lloyd, who's on about 110. Then after that, George Hewitt, who's on about 60 or 70.
Harry
Cunningham, who's just gone over 100, who doesn't really play midfield, though. Papley, who's got about 60, 70 games. Jones is roughly around the 50, 60 game mark. It's a very inexperienced midfield compared to years past when it was, 8 or 9 players deep, and, the least experienced one only played like 80, 90 games.
Yeah, we're actually having to put these young guys into the midfield a lot earlier than in previous years we would have had to. And over the last 2, probably, that's been the concern.
Well, we even saw Rowbottom and McInerney playing in the centre circle at the Bouncers during the JLT. It's a bit of a head-scratcher going, okay, fair enough. Maybe they're not really up for that yet, but whatever.
And that could have been to give him a bit of experience.
Yeah.
But it's a real concern. And you look at Rowbottom and McInerney, there is emergencies again.
They are.
So does that mean we're getting all our new guys are basically our... So you look, Dawson's the only emergency that was at the club last year. What's that saying about our club at the moment?
Yeah, no, it's very, very inexperienced squad. I know that Callum Sinclair said that in his speech that... Well, his interview, rather. He said that in his interview on Swans TV after he'd signed his contract, saying it's a very exciting young list and he's really looking forward to working with it. But he's right. It is a very young list. So Adelaide come to us. They had a pretty poor result last week, but they do have a very deep midfield. They've got 6 quality players in their midfield, like really good players. And we'd love to say can't lose the midfield battle, but it's more of a case of how we're actually going to win it.
That's right. Not only have they got 6 really good midfielders, they've got Bryce Gibbs on a half-forward flank who can go through there. Chase Jones going through there as well. They've got Kyle Hardigan who can push up and help out. You know, they've actually got some really, really strong midfielders. Then you've got Rory Atkins, who basically plays like an extra midfielder as well.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of the last time we played them, Rory Laird and Paul Seedsman and Rory Atkins killed it. Rory Laird picked up the 3 Brownlow votes. Yeah, and the first quarter, they were Atkins and Seedsman and Laird, they were the difference. I mean, I think one of them picked up 15, 16 disposals alone in the first quarter. The last time we played, obviously, the Crows had a bit of a odd injury list, and they were not fancied. Actually, the Swans, I think, were about $1.30 favourites, and they played deplorable first quarter. The Crows could have sealed the match in the first quarter. They kicked 4 goals, 9, and really they should have been up by about 40 points. But it was still pretty close at three-quarter time before they kicked away in the last quarter. But this is kind of like where you look at the stats, and the game was pretty even. So the Swans had 64 to 48 inside 50s, so 16 more. Crows had 48 to 37 hitouts, so they had 11 more. They also had 4 more clearances, 39 to 35, and 5 more contested possessions, 149 and 144. While the Swans, believe it or not, had 7 more marks inside 50, 12 to 5.
That's interesting, isn't it? But then that was when Taylor Walker was really struggling with his marking. Josh Jenkins was having a poor area as well. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, and not only that, I mean, we kind of played him into form, which was the really disappointing thing. Because if you look at the goals, Taylor Walker kicked 4 goals and had 2 Brownlow votes. And, I mean, he was in rotten form before that. Rory Atkins, obviously, he had the 3 goals and the 24 disposals. And Josh Jenkins, who couldn't even catch a cold, let alone kick the side of a barn, kicked 3 goals.
Yep. Yeah, so we played them into a bit of form, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Well, I mean, not much form because they were pretty poor afterwards.
Yeah.
Maybe that was the rocket we needed because we went on and had some pretty significant wins after that, the Geelong, the Hawthorn game.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I don't know about this. I look at it and I go, I can't actually see from their midfield compared to our midfield where we can actually beat them.
Yeah, well, I'm just looking across the field, right? Just like yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Sam Jacobs, Rory Sloane, Brad Crouch. There's 350, 400 games experience with that?
Yep.
Right, we've got Sinclair, Heaney, and Kennedy, which is maybe 300 games, 310 games, right? There's at least 100-odd game difference there. Alir and Lynch, big difference. Malik and Jenkins, big difference. Rampe Betts, fairly big difference.
Before you start on that one, why is Rampe playing there and not playing on Walker? And I know that's, this is just put in, but like you've got Callum Mills playing on Taylor Walker.
It'll be reshifted. So Callum Mills will be on Betts or Jared. No, it'll be Mills on Betts like you did last time. And McVeigh will still be on Atkins. Jake Lloyd will be on Gibbs. And Rampe will come to Walker.
Yeah.
I don't think much is going to actually change with this lineup, except for Luke Parker's not going to be at forward pocket. He's going to be in the midfield.
Yeah.
He'll probably be on a half-forward flank, to be honest. But some of the other matchups, obviously, Callum Mills on Eddie Betts, big difference. Then you've got Hewitt and Crouch are fairly similar, but obviously Ronco on Smith, Papley on Seedsman, Blakey on whoever he plays on. Then obviously you've got Colin Ward in 3 games, Florin who's got about 20 or so, Haywards who's got about 40 or so, Clark who's I think's got about 50 or so.
Yeah, it's interesting. Seedsman's a danger. Daniel Talia's a danger. Brodie Smith, who might I add's in my fantasy team, so I hope he goes well, but not too well.
They got danger all over the field.
Yeah.
And the biggest problem is whether or not they will click.
Yes.
Look, this is going to lead us into our matchups. So my first matchup, Stephen, is I've got Sinclair versus Jacobs for the Rock. Now, Adelaide rely on Jacobs having a good game, and he's had Sinclair's number for quite a while now. It is extremely important that Sinclair actually plays quite well against him and puts in a better match than he did last time, because Jacobs monstered him last time they played. So, yeah, Sinclair really needs a good performance here, and I think that is probably one of the most crucial matchups for that game for us to have a chance.
I'd actually agree with you. The thing that I would say is, and I've said this many times before, I love Sinclair as a player, but he is not a good tap ruckman against a decent ruckman. And this could be really, really a concern for us, because you look at it, he won the hitouts last week and we still got killed in the midfield. If he doesn't win or at least break even with Jacobs this week, our midfield's going to go down the gurgler.
Yeah, look, even if he gets beaten hitouts, he has to make it a contest so he can't get clean hitouts to advantage. But more importantly, he has to put pressure when a ball hits the ground, and he has to lay tackles and win hard balls, which he was doing extremely well in 2017, 2018. So that's where he can sort of break even and if not get ahead. But Stephen, what is your first matchup?
My first matchup, and it's not one that I actually want to talk about because I actually think it's going to be completely against the Swans, but it's Franklin versus Talia. And I'm going to say this now. If Franklin doesn't come out and he doesn't run and he doesn't body up on Talia and making the rest of the defenders actually play on Franklin as well, we will get killed because if Franklin is not there as a mainstay in our forward line and actually moving up the ground, so he's receiving the ball up high and then pinpointing passes in, because that's how we score a lot of our goals as well, besides Franklin kicking them.
Yeah.
We're going to struggle, and I actually think if Franklin is not doing it, we could get beat by a tremendous amount.
Yeah, the last time we played, he wasn't very good against them, and they had his number, clearly had his number. He's got two good-sized defenders, Keith and Talia down there, so he is going to have to work hard for his opportunities. But the good side, or the upside rather, is that we do have Sam Reid back. And we didn't have Sam Reid last time. So it is going to make a pretty big difference, I feel.
Yeah, and I hope you're right. But didn't we last time... Who did we have playing last time instead
Lance
of Sam
Franklin,
Reid?
that was it.
Lance Franklin, that's right.
That was our only
wasn't it?
forward. We had Franklin as our only forward for 21 of the 24 games we played. Or maybe 22 of the 24.
Yeah. Well, we had McCartan, but, he was learning.
Yeah,
he was a junior.
I wouldn't put him in the forward alongside Franklin kind of category because he was brand spanking new. He was 18 years old when he played, so it was hard for him. He played well, but it was tough. Yeah. So my second matchup, and this is a bit of a toss-up really between the centre-half back and the full-back. Obviously, centre-half back being Rampe Walker and full-back being Malikan Jenkins. I've gone for Rampe versus Walker. So last time they played, Walker really got off the leash and he was amazing for Adelaide, and Rampe had one of the worst games I've seen him play for a very long time. Now, the thing is, Rampe usually gives Walker a bit of a bath, but not last time. No, last time Walker was superb. So this one is a really important one. He has to stop Walker. If Rampe can't stop Walker and he puts in a Jeremy Cameron / Walker last year kind of defensive performance, no, we can't win. I'm going to put it in the not going to happen basket if it happens like that.
I've got a question for you, Justin.
Yep.
Do you think Rampe has actually dropped off over the last year and a half to 2 years since Ted Richards has no longer been at the club?
I don't think it's so much dropped off. I think it's the midfield. They're not putting enough pressure back. They're not running backwards as much as they used to. So you go back to like 2014, 2016, when the Swans kept super low defensive scores. And I think 2016, they've got the second lowest scores conceded for the season behind, I think, St Kilda's 2009. Like insanely low, average of about 61 points against per game. You look at that team, that midfield worked their arse off to get back in defence, right? You look at the team now, there is so much space for the forwards to run into, and it's got nothing to do with the 666. It's just a work rate. It's just not there. The fitness and stamina probably isn't there yet. So, well, the knowledge and experience and capacity and capability to do it yet. So, I think he's still done fairly well considering.
Yeah. Do you think that comes down to coaching tactics though?
Yeah. It also comes down to the players you have and what you've got at your disposal. I mean, when you're looking at a team that's primarily made up of players under the age of 23, you can't really expect, amazing things. I mean, look at Gold Coast. They were very average with a team of 23 and under for quite a long time. So
yeah, that's true.
I think we're just lucky we've still got really good players in key positions. If we didn't have those really good players in key positions, like you take Parker, Franklin, Rampe out, and potentially even Aaliyah, who's a good utility player, even Lloyd, take those 5 players out, we would suck.
Yeah, we'd be struggling quite a lot.
Yes.
All right, anyway, Justin, moving on to my second matchup. I think this is a very big one. I think this guy had a great game last week, even in a losing side, which was Rory Sloane. My concern is if we do not stop him this week, we will get killed through the midfield. So I've put George Hewitt, our master tagger, on him, and I'm concerned that I don't even think our master tagger can stop Sloane this week. I think Sloane will get off and have a bloody big game, and I reckon he'll score close to 180 fantasy
Ooh,
points.
I don't even want to think about that, so I'm not even going to talk about it.
I just have this feeling that Sloane, because he didn't play last year, he will come out and he'll want to do it. Now, he got 144 last week, so he had a massive game. His work rate for Sloane is just immense.
Well, I wonder if it's going to be more of a case of Cunningham to Sloane, because Cunningham has had the job before and he's done the job a few times previously. Especially back in 2016, he pretty much kept Sloane to almost non-existent in that game.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. But look, let's go on to our key points because it's going to touch on some of that. So, Stephen, Can you give me your first key point of the match?
Yes, Sydney's midfield needs to get on top early. If they do not, it'll give the Crows midfield confidence and they'll run over the top of us. They'll just steamroll us.
Right, so we're talking more 2016, less 2018?
Yes, more 2016, less 2018. Definitely.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And look, last year was a case in point. We let them get on top and you're right, they just steamrolled us. Just smashed us. 2017 was the game when we kicked 7 goals, I think, in the first quarter. 6-7 goals in the first quarter at Adelaide Oval. We got on top, but they were so good that they just came back like a freight train. And they threatened to take it away from us. But yeah, it's in the midfield, 100%. And can you give us your second key point there, Stephen?
This is a big one, and I actually want to see this, and I think it needs to happen. Mills and Heaney will start in the midfield. I actually don't believe Mills will play in the back line. And I think for us to win, they both need to get 30 disposals each at a minimum. 30 plus disposals.
Oh, yeah. No, that
is
would
the
be
only chance.
That would be a great result for the team if we could get Mills and Heaney up to 30s.
Yeah. That is the only chance I think we've got of winning, because I think we need to be putting Kennedy out on the wings, and I think we need to have Parker as a run-through person going forward as well, because he's a good overhead mark like Heaney, but he's just that bit stronger. I think Mills and Heaney need to be our new midfield.
Yeah, Mills looked good in the JLT preseason campaign. He did actually look really good in midfield, and Heaney's always looked great in midfield. But it's not a bad one there, Stephen. Now, my first key point, we've already kind of discussed this, so we don't have to discuss it much more, but Swans midfield has to get back and help in defence. This comes back to Rampe's rallying cry. He said, we need help, they're not helping, get back and help us. They have to do it if they want to stop Betts, if they want to stop Lynch, if they want to stop Jenkins, and they want to stop Walker from kicking 12-plus goals.
Yeah, I agree totally. No more to say on that one, because it's just second nature. We have to get back and help out our defence.
Now, that also touches on my key point, my second key point. We cannot let Walker and Betts have a free run at the ball. They've done it before. They've killed us. They did it last year. They killed us. They have killed any number of teams just by having the space in the forward line. Walker, he's quick, he's skillful, he's elite, and he can kick at 60 metres. He proved it on the weekend he can still kick 60 metres. And Betts, he might not be able to kick it far, but his athleticism is unbelievable, and he can do anything in the forward line. Now, normally we'd have Nick Smith back there, but unfortunately, he's out injured. So whoever it falls to, we just can't let them have that space. We've got to get on them and shut it down.
That's right. I agree totally. And I really don't like it. But Walker is such a good player. He had an off-season last year. I think the pressure of being captain in a very poor year for them got to him. But, geez, he's an elite kick. The way he can kick the ball, I actually think he's a better true kick than Buddy.
Yeah, he's very good.
Distance-wise. Yeah.
Now, predictions for the weekend ahead. So I have a prediction, Stephen.
Yep.
And this is more hopeful than anything else because his last game wasn't particularly good against him. But Rampe will keep Walker to 2 goals or less for the game. Now, I am desperately hopeful he can do this, and he's done it. But we need it. There's no other ways about it. We need it.
We do need it. And the simple fact is, Rampe won't be able to do that unless our midfield help out.
Yes, and now this also touches on your prediction, I believe, Stephen. So mine is Rampe to keep Walker to 2 goals or less.
Mine is the Swans' defence will concede 50-plus inside 50s. 2 weeks in a row. 68 last week, and I reckon it'll be 50-plus again because I don't think our midfield will hold up to actually stopping the Crows' midfield. Sad to say, but that's what I believe.
I agree, and if they're getting 50 plus, then Walker's going to have at least a dozen or so opportunities to mark and kick goals, so it's going to be a real danger game for us if we can't stop them from getting their inside 50s. Now, weekend forecast, we got our sure thing, our most at stake and doomsday scenario. So, Stephen, can you give me your sure thing?
Short and sweet, Buddy will get beaten this week.
Ouch. And you reckon it's Talia, do you?
I think it'll be Talia who'll take him. I just think Buddy looks unfit, and I just think he needs a rest, or he needs to build up his strength before he's going to be any good again.
Yeah, look, Talia, he's a wily defender. He's a good defender. And they've also got Callie back there as well. And they've got Keith back there as well. So they have a pretty big backline, but a good backline as well. Very experienced. So although they lost Lever, they didn't actually lose anything. So obviously Dode helps. Well, doesn't help them, rather.
No,
Dode
that's true.
is a bad loss for them. So
yeah,
but
he's a good young backman.
He is.
What's your sure thing?
Jake Lloyd to get another 30-plus disposals.
Oh, you've gone the easy one, Justin.
Well, you could say you've gone the easy one because he's unfit, so I've gone another easy one.
Fair enough.
All right, Stephen, your most at stake, please.
I think George Hewitt will lose his call as a genuine tagger this week if he doesn't pull his finger out and actually demonstrate what he's been known to do.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one if the Swans try to set him loose as a ball-winning midfielder or as a tagger. So it's interesting. But my most at stake, Stephen, we've kind of touched on this earlier in the show, is that Malikan gets smashed in defence by Jenkins. Now, if that happens, I think there is a genuine concern about him as a defender in the senior side.
Well, I already have a genuine concern about him as a defender.
I'm talking within the four walls.
Yeah. But where do we go? If he does get monstered, and I hope he doesn't, but if he does get monstered, where do we turn to?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't.
Because
maybe
back to...
We could turn to that full forward that we picked up from Adelaide.
Yeah, that'd be good, wouldn't it? or we turn back to Grundy, who's obviously injured or still suffering from mental health issues or whatever it is, and that's fine, but he's still 32, turning 33.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're down if we do.
Rampe's not getting any younger.
No. All right, Stephen, your doomsday scenario?
Oh, you don't want to hear my doomsday scenario. But
oh,
anyway,
not really.
The Swans lose by 100-plus points, and the person that I dislike the most of any player at the Adealide Crows, Taylor Walker, kicks 10 goals.
Oh, get off it. Get off it. I'm not sure I'm going to have you on as a guest again.
Oh, Justin, seriously, that's the biggest doomsday scenario you could come up with, isn't it?
That's almost as bad as your prediction that Carlton would win last year.
I was very close, wasn't
I? You're about 80 points off.
Well, that's still pretty good.
Well, I mean, they were getting beaten by 120 points, so I guess you got a point there.
Yeah.
I couldn't think of anything worse than the Swans not only losing by 100 points, but that ugly mustache having an absolute perler of a game that would crush my soul. My doomsday scenario, Stephen, is we just lose. We go zip 2. I'd say kind of look at writing off the season almost, and it's very early to say that, but finals are pretty unrealistic if we're talking 0-2.
Yeah, that's right. Although, Justin, out of the last 10 years? 15?
Yes.
Last 15 years, Swans, 2 out of 3 have made it.
From 0-2.
Us.
Yep.
Yeah, from 0-2. And who was the other team?
We've
done it twice, and it was
we made it in 2016.
Yep.
But yeah, and also we're the only team to go from 1 and 2 to the finals. Look, it's not all doom and gloom. It's still the very early part of the season. But at 0-2, literally, you're really on the outside. I think it's like a 5% chance you can make the finals from 0-2.
That's right.
And, it really puts us on the back foot for the next match as well. So, look, it's I hate to say it, but it is a little bit of a do or die match.
Yeah, but it goes the same for the Crows because the Crows are sitting at 0-1, so they'd be 0-2 as well.
But we have an away match against Carlton in round 3. So,
yep.
I mean, that's winnable, but going by 2017... can't take anything for granted. But then we host Melbourne in round 4. And then if we look ahead to round 5, we've got Richmond at Marvel.
Yeah.
So there's every chance we could come out of this either 1 or 2 wins. We'd rather, obviously.
I know, it's not looking good.
Want to be a bit more than that. But look, Stephen, it's been great having you on the show again. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Justin. It's always a pleasure. You know I love it.
Absolutely. And look, as always, we are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram with the tag The Swans Blog. You can get in touch with us during the week using the hashtag SwansCast and SwansCast Extra. Until next time, go Swans.
Go Swannies.